And good evening to everybody. Yeah, looks like I'm here all by myself right now. So I just thought I'd have a little chit-chat with you before we get rolling on the show. We got Paul Hellyer coming in. Just waiting for Tony and for Paul to engage on the board here. And once they're here, we'll have some fun. In the meantime, you might want to check out the little video we did last night on QL Television. Go to www.qltelevision.com. and grab last night's little doozy of a video, and might have you guys open to a couple of things. So, but other than that, still waiting for Tony and everybody. Trying to think. Yeah, we got a lot of stuff coming up this week. Just got off the phone and had a chat with Kyler. So it looks like Kyler's going to be joining us on Saturday for another hot and fiery night. Oh, I love doing those shows with him. As I said to him, we're a couple of dual flames that light up the flamethrowers. And, well, I'll tell you, if you're not awake after one of those shows, I believe American Idol is on the same time. You might find that more entertaining. But anyway, I'm not even sure if you guys are hearing me based on how badly we've been hacked lately on so many levels. So, but there you go. What else do I want to talk about while I'm trying to waste time here until people get on board? Yeah, lots going on. I just haven't really had a chance to catch up on the particulars. We got a lot of interesting things going down. Apparently, there was a new course that they're offering. I think they call them police officers. Let's just call them pirates and armed thugs and whatever for what they really are. But in regards to the sovereign citizens, which is an oxymoron. So that's the first clue that they don't know what they're talking about. The second clue is I'm going to take this same document that was meant for law enforcement only, and I'm going to change every time they mention something to do with the right people and lawful people. I'm going to how they like to disparage things. I'm going to throw in police officers, and just to see how it reads, because it'll probably actually read true for a change. But there you go. Hey, listen, I got nothing against abiding by the law. That's exactly what I was trying to do, which really stunned me because as soon as I did and exposed the frauds of the banks and what have you, and the cops and all the rest of it, funny how those that are supposed to be lawful come and attack you for that. I thought we were supposed to be doing the right things with and for each other. I guess not. But again, that's their paradigm, that's their system. Tony, how are you doing?
Yeah, just juggling mute buttons, telephone numbers, and bits and pieces, Kate.
Yeah, no problem. So I'll keep it rolling. Your mic's hot, and I guess we'll see. You're getting Paul set up to get sorted out to get on the board, eh?
Indeed.
Okay, all good. Sure. Okay, no worries. All right, so thank you, Joanne. Joanne just tagged me, let me know that sound is good, and a couple of nice hellos out there to Otis and Ragdoll and so many others. Thank you guys for tagging me back when I do the post. It's always nice to know that there's going to be someone there, so big moz to you guys. What else we got here? Just having a look around. Oh yeah, we were talking about that that Intel thing. They're going to have a course on how to get duped into being even more of a automatonic roboton with a uniform and a feigned sense of godness. Anyway, so it should be pretty fun. It's a fairly lengthy little document. It looks like a whole university course the way they've laid it out. And I had to laugh. They were talking about the U.S. Marshals that were killed by sovereign citizens. No, guys, that was debunked a long time ago, and it was an actual police setup. And the chief's own son was killed in it, and I know that he was part and parcel to the game, so nothing like sacrificing your own kid for these things. But anyway, there you go. If you actually saw the real videos, that was the Jerry and Joseph Kane assassination. That's what it was. It was meant to be, and it was also meant to be an attack on anyone trying to be, free. Dare to say you're, sovereign or free man. Apparently, they must know 3 of the 5 terms for sovereign citizen. I can think of probably about 150 different ways of saying that I'm free. But that just shows you that I like to get these little buzzwords, like the brand things. Well, I like to brand cattle too, right? So it doesn't surprise me. But anyway, don't know where to go from here. I'm just rambling tonight, guys, so just bear with me. Because that's the thing. When I have a guest, I don't really, other than wanting to ask questions and what have you, I don't really prep anything beforehand. and I'm sort of out and about right now. I ran into a little mechanical issue, so it's all good though. It's all good. Yeah, maybe I'll talk about that some other time, but not tonight. Nothing too bad. It's all right. It's mechanical, so it's all good.
Just a quick update.
Yeah, go ahead.
We're just having some technical difficulties getting Paul to connect through. So what we're having to do is get him on the mobile and then help him with his Skype a little bit by the looks of it. So I'll be with you as soon as I can, guys. But it's going to be a good one.
Yeah, no problem. If he wants me, I'll need to get his contact. If he wants me to bring him into Skype with me, but
yes.
Or you can give him the link and he can go in direct, which might be better given the fact that they like beelining on me on Skype. So just okay.
Yep.
You do your thing. I'll just natter away here and fake it. I do it all the time.
Tell us, who's Paul? What's he about? Come on, give us a bit of background.
About what? About Paul?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, why don't I sent out the blurb, so why don't I just give a bit of a background? Hey, what a great idea, Tony. Why don't I do that? Go and do your thing. It's your show. I'm hosting it. Stop.
I'm on it. It was a break.
That's all right. Here we go. I'll give you a bit of background. Okay, guys. So, anyway, tonight on Cosmic Blueprint, we'll be interviewing Paul Hellyer, who is one of Canada's best known and most controversial politicians. And that he is, for sure. First elected in 1949, he was the youngest cabinet minister appointed to Louis St. Laurent's government 8 years later. He subsequently held senior posts in governments of Lester B. Pearson and Pierre Elliott Trudeau, who defeated him for the Liberal Party leadership in 1968. And I happen to think that Paul would have been a much better candidate for that role. But there you go. Never was a Trudeau fan. Anyway, the following year, after achieving the rank of senior minister, which was later designated Deputy Prime Minister, Hellyer resigned from the Trudeau cabinet on a question of principle related to housing. Although Hellyer is best known for his unification of the Canadian Armed Forces and for his 1968 chairmanship of the Task Force on Housing and Urban Development, he has maintained a lifelong interest in macroeconomics. Through the years, as a journalist and political commentator, he has continued to fight for economic reforms and has written several books on the subject. A man of many interests, Hellyer's ideas are not classroom abstractions. He was born and raised on a farm, and his business experience includes manufacturing, retailing, construction, land development, tourism, and publishing. He has also been active in community affairs, including the arts, and studied voice at the Royal Conservatory of Music in Toronto. His multifaceted career, in addition to a near lifetime in politics, gives Hellyer a rare perspective on what has gone wrong with world economies. In recent years, he has become interested in the extraterrestrial presence and the superior technology that we have been emulating. In September 2005, he became the first person of cabinet rank in the G8 group of countries to state unequivocally UFOs are as real as the airplanes flying overhead. And we have, there's a link. You can actually go to his website at www.paulhellierweb.com. That's Paul Hellyer. Hellyer is Hellyer, so paulhellierweb.com. So that's what we're doing. That's who we're going to have on tonight. I got to check the board. That's a problem with reading. I don't get a chance to see the board at the same time. There we go. All right, we're all good.
Okay. A little bit of an update. Paul's having some technical problems. For some reason, guys and girls, my communications aren't getting through to him. So doesn't that make a change? Yeah, he's having to close his computer down and reboot and try and go sign out and back into Skype to see if that makes it any easier. It's for some reason.
Oh, okay, well, I just sent him a contact request, so I guess we'll wait for him to.
It's all right. I'm dealing with it, but I'm in contact with him. But we just can't get this stuff working. That's all.
Yeah, no problem. Like I said, if he can tag you, come on the board direct, or if I need to, I can just pull him in with me.
Okay. I think they might have got it. 2 seconds. 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and you might want to. Yeah, never mind. You're quicker. Joanne, what the power you have over Tony? I've never seen him jump that fast, and I've screamed at him. Well done, girl. Anyway, yeah, Joanne, we got to get you on the air here, hon. So I know people want to hear your story because you've got such a beautiful story, and we're so honored to have you hanging out with us, helping out, and doing so much for Syncrenicity.com. So there you go. Haha, indeed. All right, let's see what people are. Everybody. Oh, Vanessa's there too. Hello, Vanessa. Glad to see you're on board here. And of course, Rory and so many others. All right.
Okay, we have Paul here. If you can bring him into the show, that'd be wonderful.
Okay, he needs to accept my request.
Okay, I'll go and do that. So.
That's all he does. I've already sent the request to him. As soon as that happens, he's on the show. Hey guys, you want to see radio in action? I'll tell you when I get the contact request confirmed. We'll see how fast this call comes up. Waiting. I hate radio dead air, don't you? Yeah. Anyway, sorry for the technical difficulties, guys. I know we don't have to apologize because this happens to us a lot. So all that tells me is that we're doing something right. For those that were tuned in on Friday, we had Brett Stillings on, and a half hour after the show, we had our main website, Syncrenicity.com, hacked, and a lot of other sites got hacked that night too, but I just thought it was kind of a unique coincidence that occurred. And on Saturday night, had my Skype hacked, and Brett was able to detect that it was a direct attack on my computer specifically. So that was kind of neat. Nice to have people around that have eyes like that and know what's going on. But anyway, still waiting there, Tony. As soon as I see it, I'll pull him in. Is there can you talk, or are you still wrapped up?
Yeah, I can talk, and I've just realised why you can't see him. You're on Do Not Disturb.
That doesn't affect anything. He has to send a request back. I've already sent the contact request. That does not do anything. The only time it's a bother is if it's on offline.
Well, we're still having technicals then, so bear with me.
All right. Just mention to him that it's Cygnus trumpets. Then again, the voice might confuse him too if he tuned in. Oh well. Like I said, I'm just waiting for the contact request. I'm just going to tag him again. Wait. Okay. Tony, are you there? I don't know what's going on. Okay, what is this? Nothing's playing all by itself here. Oh. Bizarre. I'm gonna have to call back in, guys. Still music. Okay, all I got here, guys.
Hello.
Bloody hell, what was that?
What was what?
You guys weren't hearing it. It was an elevator tune.
Good grief. Okay, I don't know.
I got a brand where I couldn't. If you were talking, I couldn't hear you. All I had was music going on in the background. Like
Right.
it was crazy. So they're having a new. They found a new way of annoying. I was just going to hang up and use my other alternate Skype that I don't use too often.
Okay.
But anyway,
we're in probably a catch-23 position here.
Right.
When I was talking to Paul at the moment, he could barely hear me. We didn't know what it was, but something was preventing the communication.
Right.
So I could hardly communicate with him. So what I'm going to have to do is just let you try and do it again. Let you try and carry on, and then I'll try and get Paul hooked up because he's still not getting the information he needs to connect.
Okay. Well, if you can you hear him on your Skype? Okay, or what's going on there?
Yes, I can hear him.
Okay, I need him to accept my contact request, Tony.
Yes,
I will.
I know what
okay.
you need.
All right.
Just
Relax.
time
I'm just.
do it.
No worries. No worries. Got it.
Okay.
Radio live is so much fun, you know. Anyway, yeah, they do love running interference on us to try to knock us off our balance, but we're used to it. Anyway, what are we at? All right. Okay, still no contact coming in yet, but hey, when it comes in, it'll be we'll get them on as fast as we can. I guess the good listeners, you heard what Tony had to say, so he's having some sonic issues on his end as well. There's the music again. Okay, can you guys hear me? I need someone to give me some feedback because I think I just found out what's happening. Tony's throwing the show on hold, and it's I don't know. Anyway, the music stopped as soon as I put Tony on hold, so that might be hold music between calls. So if someone in any of the chat rooms that is hearing me right now, can you please tell me that you're hearing me? This is nuts. I'm just going to take Tony back off hold and see if the music's there. If it is, then I think we have the problem solved, and we'll have to get that one worked out for future. Yeah, okay, thank you guys. So I'll just, I'm going to pop Tony back in for a sec to see if all right, one sec. If there's music, then we'll, yep. All right, so when Tony goes off onto hold, he puts the whole show on hold, so I got to let him know that next time. So anyway, Tony, I don't know if you can hear me or not, but you're going to have to you're going to have to text me back to get back on the air. Otherwise, I'm going to get really frustrated here. It's like, and it's not really good music either, you know. It's way too kind of elevator groovy for me. But anyway, there you go. All right, thanks. I see you ate a bug, and Vanessa and Jim, thank you. You guys over this. Unbelievable. Well, I can't say it's not an interesting show already. It might be a little boring, but it's certainly interesting. No, Joe, you're doing great here. I just need to know if you can kind of type for me to let Tony know that he's going to have to text me to bring him back onto the show. Otherwise, I'm still not for a live show anyway. Mind you, I think there's a few people, thank you, I think there's a few people that say, well, that's a good thing some nights, so it's all good. Anyway, And Kyler just tried to call and can't answer the phone right now, Kyler. Sort of busy. All right. Oh, there's Paul. I'm going to see if I can drag him into the call here, and we'll get that sorted out. Okay, I see Tony's back. I'm going to do that, and I'm going to... going on. Here we go. I'm going to see if I can pull Paul into this call, so just give me a second. Oh, what a nightmare this is. And there we go. And hopefully Tony can come back into the call. So just waiting for Paul to answer, and as soon as he does, Paul, are you there? Hello, Paul.
Hello.
There you are. Oh my gosh.
Oh yes, the triumph of modern technology.
Isn't it fun? Yeah, I'm gonna unmute Tony, but I think he put me on hold, and it kind of put the whole show on hold with this really funky, bad music. So if you hear music, you'll hear what I've been hearing, and I think we got him. Tony, are you there?
I am indeed, yes, and we should have Paul coming in if he's not already here.
I've already got Paul. We're already talking. When you go to another call, don't put the call on hold on Skype. Just when you went to use your Skype with Paul, it puts me and the show on hold. So I'm hearing this funky music, and you're not hearing it.
Yeah, it's because somebody called me. It's because I was called. I didn't do it. It came on automatically. Cool.
Yeah, that's normal. So anyway, now we know for next time. So it's not a hack. Thank you very much. Just another way of being annoying. So anyway, excuse me. Here we have Paul Hellyer and hosting tonight, Tony Z, and of course your other host, Kate of Gaia, rambling away. Tony, take the floor.
Hello, hi, great. Sorry about that bumpy start, Paul. It's we've had lots of connection issues from one thing to the other, but can you hear me okay?
I can, yes.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. I wanted to actually start initially tonight just by asking you to we've got lots of listeners with us tonight who might not necessarily have looked at your materials, because there's a lot of people that this is breaking ground as well for, and the listener numbers are increasing as well. So I wonder if you could just explain a little bit about yourself, your background, and give us some information so that people can get some kind of hold to who you are and what information you can help bring us tonight, please.
Well, I'm a person who has been in politics most of their life. Believe it or not, I was first elected to the House of Commons in Canada in 1949, and I served in the House for 23 and a half years in 3 different administrations, that of W.S. Saint Laurent, and then Lester B. Pearson through his entire administration, and then for a year with Pierre E. Trudeau. And my portfolios were Minister of National Defence, where I unified the Army, Navy, and Air Force and made them into a single Canadian Defence Force. Quite a bit of that has been rolled back in the intervening years, but it was a great move and worked very well for 8 years until they started to disband it. And then my other portfolio, which was less well known, as transport. And I was Minister of Transport for a couple of years after I left the defense portfolio. So, and since that time, my main interest in politics is not really defense, but it's monetary reform. I was a child of the Depression, and I saw poverty at its rawest level. And so when I went to university to get even with the Prime Minister for wasting a couple of years in the Air Force and the Army, I took economics and loved it, but I asked my economics professors if recessions and depressions were necessary, and their answers were far from satisfactory, quite unsatisfactory as a matter of fact. So I did my own thinking and came to the conclusion that a recession or depression that was necessary, they are all monetary phenomena. They're all related to the banking system and how in fact it is unstable, unsustainable, and really nothing but a great big pile. For a number of years now, I've been trying to do something about that. And I've spent a lot of money at it. I've spent a lot of time working at it. That's my principal project at the present time, is to try and get the Canadian government to accept its constitutional responsibility to the people of Canada, and to create enough money to end the recession post-haste and get the economy going, provide jobs and hopes for the million young Canadians between the ages of 15 and 25 who are unemployed, and who, in many cases, like a lot of young people in Great Britain, seem to be without hope. And certainly with the way the system operates now, that's legitimate, but it doesn't need to be, and we can do something about it, and that's the principal thing. Then in more recent years, I have become a little bit interested in the extraterrestrial presence and technology, and especially the technology, because I think that the technology exists to transform the world in a few years, which is absolutely essential to stop global warming, from an oil economy and to a clean energy economy. And I've been making speeches this last year, or the last big speech I made was at the Global Breakthrough Energy Conference in Hilversum, Holland, in November, where I was pleading for a mobilization not dissimilar from the one we had in World War II. In World War II, in this continent anyway, we transformed every car manufacturing company and manufacturers of washing machines and refrigerators and all of those things into the manufacturers of arms and ammunition. And what I'm saying now is that we should do just the absolute opposite. We should convert all of the arms-making plants into plants to create clean energy. Presumably, we do have the technology for zero-point energy, and so we need to replace the power source in every car, truck, tractor, airplane, and home in the whole world in about 8 years. And it could be done if we had the kind of mobilization that we had in 1939 to 45 to win the Second Great World War. So those are the things that I've been promoting and that occupy my attention. And I'm only going to the office 5 days a week now, because my wife sort of laid the law down last November and said I can't go on Saturday mornings. Sometimes she lets me sneak a little work home to do Saturday morning. But I'm trying to take it easy, but at the same time it's impossible when the world is in such an absolutely horrible mess it is at the moment. And when for some unknown reason, people don't seem to know what to do about it, when the answers are really fairly simple if they stop and use common sense and take the Ponzi scheme that we have as an international financial system and change it right away and transform the world into the sort of progressive and opportunistic planet that it could be.
Absolutely, that's some amazing information. Yes, absolutely, you're perfectly correct. We do have this technology. We've had it for a very, very long time, and it should be implemented. And as you say, it's a lot of it is down to the fact that people don't actually think it's real. Obviously, this has been manufactured as well.
Yeah, but the people in power know that it's real.
Yes.
But people running the world just happen to be the same people who run the banks and the oil companies, and they don't want this technology to become public because that would mean they wouldn't be able to cash in their trillions of dollars in chips in the oil industry.
Absolutely.
And I can understand that from a cold-blooded business perspective, but they seem to be willing to risk the future of the world just in order to pick up a few billions that they don't need at all, because they're already the rich people in the world, and to think that they would have more concern for the children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren of all of us and what the world is going to be like if they don't come clean with the knowledge that they have, rather than just saying, well, we don't really give a damn about the future of the world. We're going to continue to play Monopoly the way we have been, and we set the rules, and we're going to continue to set the rules, and that's the way it's going to be. And it's time that some of us said, well, that's not the way it's going to be, because we put up with this long enough.
Yes, absolutely. When I said people, I actually meant people as in the populations, not actually the governments. This is one of the things we make absolutely clear on this show. We are aware that those technologies exist on this show, but the masses out there in general have been pre-programmed to ridicule the situation, the subject, and the technology itself, unfortunately, through major conditioning programs paid for by the industrial military complex that wants to carry on the war program, the oil situation, the energy situation, etc. So I think what's actually happened from our perspective, at least where we've got this information too, is we've got the people are caught in the middle, really, between the industrial military complex, which is obviously run by the banks and the elites. Let's use that one because it's going to be the more familiar term, and also the consciousness of the people. So the consciousness of the people has been kept down deliberately by a deliberately dumbed down education system. And that's mainly the problem. Everything's all been kept under wraps and kept secret, and it's been kept secret up until the point whereby that what they're actually trying to do is impose complete and utter control over the population via the means of GMO foods, fluoride, chemtrails, all sorts of other things, towards a global microchipped population. And that's actually come to the crunch time now, whereby it's going to be pretty soon. It's going to be ID cards, which it was in Hitler's day, mandatory service for the armed forces, and then the ID cards, by the look of it, are going to try and go to RFID chips. And when everybody's chipped, that's a whole different bag of nails.
We're fighting the power structure, and there's nothing new in that. It's as old as the hills. But the people with the money and who have the power in the areas of where they can control the rest of us so easily also have the support through, in effect, puppet governments. And I say that, maybe not in the sense of pulling visible strings, but in the sense of keeping them on side with plans, including the New World Order, which are diametrically opposed to the interests of the average person on the street. And the politicians control the armed forces and the police. And so any attempt at reform runs headlong into all of that power, in addition to just the ideas themselves, and also in many cases a loaded press, which in some cases at least is owned by the people who don't want the cover that they use to be removed, and they want to keep their masks on. So it's a very uphill battle, but it's one that has to be waged, because they have one kind of power, they have all of the one kind of power, but the thing they haven't got is the people, and there are more of us. And we're just going to have to use our power in a way that challenges theirs and brings about some real change before it's too late.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we say, it's all about getting people to understand that there's the two options. They're at opposite ends. It's like it's got to be either complete freedom. Or, if we had, let's say, for example, if we had free energy, we wouldn't need the monetary system the way it is. And I know you talk a lot about basing the monetary system on labour, which is about the best thing that it should be. It's no good with gold, because we've been told that gold is finite and that it's rare, which is rubbish. The same with oil. We've been told that the oil's running out, which is also rubbish. And we've been told there's no such thing as energy when anybody can stick their head out the front door and look at the sun, which is also, so there is free energy and 0 points. There's people like Mayor Hankesh that have got his supply of free energy. There's Nikola Tesla, what Tesla was doing with downloading energy from the atmosphere, and lots and lots more. And Professor Jonathan Searle was another one, Searl. And there's lots and lots of people that have sort of like looked at free energy and got lots of things moving, including electrolysis, separating hydrogen and oxygen, which is water, basically. So, but I mean, the whole paradigm has to change. So the monetary system itself has to change. If we've got that free energy, then we can charge up vehicles that we're not going to need petrol for.
Yeah. Well, I think the order, when I'm making my presentations, I'd say the most important problem facing the world today is global warming, but the most urgent is reforming the monetary system, because unless we change it, we won't have the money that are necessary, the trillions of pounds and dollars and yen and the other currencies that are necessary for this rapid changeover that I was mentioning from fossil fuels to exotic energy sources. So we have to really, I think, concentrate on the money thing. And once we do that, if we can cut the tentacles off the octopus on the money field, then I think it would be a lot easier to get some disclosure in respect of the exotic fuel sources that most of us know already exist, and start putting them into production on a mass scale. So it's a question of where we turn our attention. We should, of course, attack all of these things, but for me, the most urgent one today is getting people back to work and giving them hope and giving them a better life, and then that will include, of course, I hope, changes in their future when we switch to new exotic energy sources. Because I'm told that these things have been around for decades, quite a long while anyway,
yes.
And they're just being kept under wraps so that a few people have exclusive access to the knowledge and the technology and the secret patents that I think must be related to them. And in my latest book, which is called Light at the End of the Tunnel, A Survival Plan for the Human Species, I mention the number of secret patents filed in the United States over a 25-year period after we started getting all of this rush of technology, some of it from the extraterrestrials. And I can't remember the number offhand, but it's like 25,000 secret patents. And I'm saying that we should really have a commission, an American commission set up that would examine every one of those and see if the revelation of that information would be of benefit to the human species. And if it is, to lift the veil of secrecy and make it available, and to set the terms and conditions under which royalties could be paid, modest royalties, to put it into mass production for the benefit of all of us. So Absolutely. This is just one aspect of the thing, and that's something we'll be discussing in Washington in a few weeks when Steve Bassett has his disclosure conference at the Press Club in Washington.
Yeah, absolutely. As you say, I mean, even if a tiny, let's say 5% of those, which we know is completely, they wouldn't bother classifying them if there wasn't anything to them. It's a bit like...
Right.
Exactly. It's a bit like the Vatican.
Don't classify new mousetraps.
Yeah, exactly. It's a bit like the Vatican.
The irony, I just read at supper time a 2-page spread on what's going on in the United Kingdom. And it virtually brought tears to my eyes. Because austerity is nothing but acute insanity. And surely someone over there can see that. Maybe the Prime Minister can't. Maybe somebody will have to bring it to his attention. But do they forget John Maynard Keynes? And the way you get out of a mess like you're in at the present time is by spending your way out, not by cutting back and raising taxes and reducing salaries and laying off people and doing all of that sort of thing. We're going backwards. FDR tried that in the United States in 1937. He'd been having budgets that were expansionary and meant to get things moving again. And I guess somebody, no doubt a banker, talked him into this austerity, tried it, and it flipped right back, and they had another 3 years of recession. So surely we can learn from that, and we have to do it. Now, the only question is, where do you get money to spend? And that's where you come into the power sort of thing. And as I understand it, people of the United Kingdom own the Bank of England. So there's absolutely no reason why the Bank of England can't be used to provide the people of England with the money they need to balance the central government's budget, and then to start all sorts of programs to do the things that have to be done, that need to be done, and provide hundreds of thousands of new jobs for the people who are looking for them, including the young people who are so desperate. And this is totally within the power of the government and Parliament.
Absolutely.
They own the patent. That's what sovereignty is all about.
Yes.
Is the government owns the right to create money. It is not the privately owned banks. They have no rights whatsoever. All they have are licenses. And those licenses are issued by legislatures, by the Parliament. And what Parliament, the licenses that the Parliament have made available to the banks can be changed, altered, or revoked.
Yes, but
that's where the power lies, and what we have to do is start using the power of the people through their elected representatives on behalf of the people, instead of just for the benefit of the 1% of the people who have all of the wealth now and who are still accumulating it at a very fast rate. So why can't we get through to the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom and the Prime Minister of Canada that we want a sea change in the way things are done, and that we want the power of the Parliament to be used on behalf of the people and not on behalf of the 1% of people who already have more than they can possibly use in a million lifetimes.
Exactly. Well, that's the point. I mean, because this is the whole point. You've hit the nail on the head there. The money is actually being used as a construct to make sure there are those who have and those who have not. And this is the point. They need to drive the people down into a point where they will accept further and further restrictive measures and get poorer and poorer, basically, when it could be the opposite, for the simple reason they have to get control of the population by getting the populace to acquiesce to further security measures.
Right, like so to lie down and be like sheep and be shorn.
Exactly. Otherwise, you're not going to get fed. Now, you do as you're told. You accept the ID card, you accept the chip, and then we'll give you what we think you should have and give you all the perks and pat you on the head at the same time. Whereas the reality is that they're not going to allow us to. This is the point. There is a control on the human race, and that control is partly money. It is one of the constructs of the confines that keeps us penned down. Again, if we had free energy, we wouldn't need to buy energy. So therefore, we could have free travel, and therefore there's no need for passports.
Yeah, we'd have to buy the boxes to use, and that would be expensive. But that's where, if we change the monetary system, there would be enough money for governments to subsidize.
Here, I'm going to jump in for a second. Mirhan Kesh, actually, one of the things, I watched a beautiful interview of his there a couple of days ago he did in England on January 30th, and effectively, as he put it, we have the technology so cheap that in fact, what he said was in $100 device, basically something you could build from the hardware store, using what he's uncovered, could take out anything in the industrial military complex from thousands of kilometers away, which renders, missiles of any kind, jets and whatever. I mean, you put up one of these $100 devices against, a $1 billion B-2 stealth bomber, and that's not a very equitable trade, and there's not a whole lot of reason to want to...
I'm sorry, 100 what?
Effectively, what Keshe was saying on the interview was they can basically build a device of what is needed in terms of energy for about $100.
Yeah, right. This is Keshe Foundation.
Yeah. So and the beautiful interview. I highly recommend everyone if they can. I found it on Before It's News, I believe, and this is one of the reasons why the U.S. and Israel haven't attacked Iran. They've already downed complete, no damage, maybe a little bad landing stuff. Guys don't know how to fly them right, but they've already taken down 2 of their high-tech drones using this technology, which effectively renders all military-industrial complex garbage. So here's just a suggestion. What we need to do is eliminate all the banks because they're all built on debt anyway, wipe out all the debt across the board, make it a nice big fat zero if we're talking about humanity here, and get people back on the purpose of their lives. This is what we're doing. We're doing purpose. We don't get paid for doing this. Not at all.
I don't think we have to eliminate them completely. I've been here with some of my colleagues of the business, including the head of the American Monetary Institute. I don't think we have to eliminate the banks, but what we have to do is reduce their leverages from ridiculous levels, 20 or 15 or 10, down to 2, recommending over a period of 7 years, by creating so much government money, and I'm recommending, first of all, very large quantities of government money to get the economies up and running. And for Canada, just about to suggest to the government one more time that they create $150 billion for their current budget and distribute it 50-50 with the provinces and the territories, on the understanding that the provinces and the territories will help the hard-pressed municipalities. And I was reading about some of your hard-pressed municipalities, like Liverpool, for example, and others, and keep the system going so that we don't have a worse depression, which is what would happen if we started monkeying around too much. And then over a period of 7 years, bring the cash reserves and reinstate cash reserves for the banks, the privately owned banks, which were eliminated in favor of this, whatever it is, capital adequacy. It should be capital inadequacy, which allows the banks basically to determine the amount of money that is created and put that power back in the hands of the governments, of the people we elect, and sort of a smooth transition from the mess we're in today to one of prosperity, and where the banking system, in effect, has no further power over our lives because they've lost all of their leverage, they've lost all of the ability that they have to gamble and to do all of these things that have been so useless the last 30 or 40 years since we adopted the ideas of Milton Friedman and his gang at the University of Chicago. And without laying off the hundreds of thousands of people in the industry who are doing, useful things like cashing our checks and giving us a little bit of cash to spend on the weekend if we're going to a party or something or other. And and what I'm talking about is really an evolution which would maintain the parts of what we've already got, but change the whole power structure so that sovereign governments were back in control of the rate of money creation in their own country, and where the sovereign people of each country could make their own decisions and not be dictated to by the people in Switzerland who are directly controlled by the handful of wealthiest families in the world and who are running the world at the present time on behalf of those families. So it's really a question of changing the power structure during a very short period of time, taking away their ability to make, we will call, debt slaves of everybody, and liberate the people and liberate them from the power of this international cartel, while at the same time not taking away the jobs of the tellers and the little people who have to do the chores in the bank, who can still provide that sort of a service to us usefully and credit for businesses start up and need to borrow a few dollars in order to stay alive and to expand when they're in their early stages. So I have, I've done a 5-page thing, what I call principle with truth. In other words, to destroy everything, but to power structure totally, so that the people in the cartel wind up no more power than an ordinary bank manager, and certainly can't run the United States, Britain, Europe, Canada, and all of the other countries with just telephone calls placed to their friends in high places.
Yeah, this is part of the problem, though. The whole construct, this thing hasn't been put in place over literally hundreds and hundreds of years to be dropped at the last minute like a hot potato without any pressure. The constructions of the monetary system, the constructions of the regulations, the licenses, the permits, all this sort of stuff is all based on control. And it's this control element that's the most dangerous bit, because if you've got what it's all about, the whole thing has been set up A, B, C, D, E, F, G to control people. Now, if there's not an element of control there, in other words, the element of control has got to the point now where it's strangling everyone, as in the people. It's strangling the economy, of course, because it was designed to. It's strangling the people's ability to buy and sell food. Productions. We've got rolling green fields in Britain, and yet they're lying by saying that there's not enough. The population's too high. There's the global warming thing again. There is technology behind this, and there's also natural cycles behind it. So there's a lot of lying going on there as well. The systems that have been indoctrinated into people, the physics, for example, are wrong. And there's lots and lots more things that we've been taught, things that are wrong. They're lies. So the very first thing that we need to do is understand what's the truth and what's lies. So there could be an interim monetary system that could be placed, and I've suggested numerous occasions that it should be based on you go to work and you work a certain amount of hours in which you'll get a certain amount of remuneration. The people that as in general, the people think that they vote for a political party and that particular political party gets in, whereas in reality it's not that way at all. All of the parties, you can have a blue puppet, a red puppet, or a yellow puppet. Either which way win, they own all the parties that are puppets, and it doesn't really matter which one the public sway towards the left or sway towards the right or the middle. It's irrelevant, because there's a shadow government behind all of this with incredibly advanced technology. We're talking stuff that would seem like out of this world, literally, to us. But they don't want the people to have it. And that's the basic, and that's the point. It's taken us away from any form of freedom, and it's taken us further into slavery. So the very first thing from my position is, we need to have the truth. In order to understand and weigh up any situation, we need to have a complete understanding of what's real and what's not. And that's the one thing that's been drilled out of us for years. The schools, the colleges, the universities, They've all been taking the information away from us and leading us in the wrong directions. And it's all been for a reason. And that's the point. What's the reason? Why have they done it? How have they done it? And where is it going to lead us unless we do something about it? That's the truth of the matter. That's the crux of the problem. We need the truth in order to make a sensible decision. If they're not going to tell us the truth and do what they're supposed to be doing, as in, well, I say they're supposed to be doing loosely, we should pick the best people to do the jobs that are going to be the most clear-cut and that there's no alternative, what's the word I'm looking for? Alternate agendas or ulterior motives. In other words, if we turn around to the Prime Minister and say, right, we want free energy, okay, what type of free energy can we have? Let's have a discussion about it. Well, I think, Professor Jonathan Searle's technology is okay for this area and that one, whereas Miran Kesh's is great for transportation and X, Y, Z. But we can't have that conversation unless they admit that they've got it. And so it's a non-debate. It's not going to happen. So first and foremost, any of this this discussion needs to be based on
Are there no members of Parliament at all who are championing these things?
Pardon?
I say, are there none of the members of Parliament at all who are championing things like energy and so on?
No, not at all.
No, they're too busy filling their own pockets with privately funded bank money. That's where I run into real issue. You know, it's people like you, Paul, that have actually stood out and you've stepped away and you've got a lot of information that you can share. I mean, you nailed it with a cold-hearted, bloodlust of those interested in lining their own pockets, and that's what we're ending up with. You've got a bunch of hierarchy that have the hubris that cannot be measured, and this is the problem. When you put the power of printing money into anyone's hands, it will corrupt them. And that's why money, as a fundamental thing, has to be gotten rid of. And we're going to go through some growing pains, and everyone can mock up all this. It's going to be bad and that, and I don't see that at all. Once people understand that, well, they don't have to slave for 50, 60 hours a week with a mom and dad, totally destroying the family structure of keeping the kids where they can be raised properly, instead of letting these publicly funded schools that were originally designed by the Rockefeller Foundation that are supplied books from the Rand Military Corporation with McNally. This is what we have to get away from. So when we're dealing with the technologies that we have available to us that are being hidden with all these patents, secret patents, what have you, what we're running into are those that have, absolutely controlling those that have not, and people are kept in a state of desperation, a state of fear, and that hope is removed. And the only time that we're going to stand as a people is when some of that hope is returned. And if it takes a bit of breaking this whole system down to the garbage, getting rid of the garbage for what it is, and it's garbage. Private banks, nonsense. You've got private people controlling the lives of other private people, and that's an oligarchic dictatorship.
No, but what I'm saying is the bank should be virtually the same as a public utility, and they can provide a useful service as the equivalent of a public utility. But the reason I have always shied away from 100% government-created money is because I don't trust politicians. I think you're absolutely right. Power corrupts, and power corrupts absolutely. And we wouldn't want to trust politicians to have the only hand, a free hand on the printing presses, because they would abuse it as much as the people who've got their hands on it now. But I was trying to get a system of checks and balances which would make the system work well, and so that's what I've been spending my time on. And I think I've got a compromise that would accomplish the major things that most of my colleagues are looking for anyway, and that's to destroy the power of the banking control and remove.
Yeah, Paul, I couldn't agree with you more. And this is one of the things when we get talking about the 0 point energies and making this available, we're talking a very, very cheap item that anyone at any level can get for themselves. I mean, and I really want to get away from the economic stuff. I want to get focused on the exotic aspect of looking ahead instead of looking back at what we've already dealt with, because we know it doesn't work. Keeping to try to do the same thing over is just insanity, expecting something different. So when you put in, give me an example with Keshe. When you can draw matter out of the space in an atom between the nucleus and the electron, that's where they're drawing the energy from, in a device about the size of a 2-liter Coke bottle, costs less than $100, that will actually light up 3 or 4 houses with that much energy. You know, you've got people not concerned about slaving for what do you call it? To pay the illegal hydro bills, to pay the illegal water bills. I mean, these are things that are, you know, anyone that can walk into a country and claim it as their own and then charge the rest of us to, you know, for drinking water, for crying out loud. Yeah, there's things that need to be done as far as purification, but they even screwed that up with fluoridation and all the rest of it. So let's just get away from all this paradigm nonsense of what has been, and let's talk about what can be and what will be. So with regards to free energy, Keshe can literally pull matter. You're probably familiar with the Star Trek replicator. It's literally that, where people can create things. So here, and what Tony said earlier, you know, gold, they like basing things on gold, and that's in total abundance. They just like hoarding this stuff because they want to make things appear that there's a lack. But if you've got one of these units that can actually pull anything you want out of the ether, what's gold worth? Nothing. So there is no need for money because we will have our own abundance. What we need to do, that's why they're so afraid of 0 point. That's why they're so terrified of people like Keshe, because it destroys this whole hierarchy of military-industrial complex, political oligarchy, private banking to control the masses, all the rest of it. Because that is the stuff that has been creating wars. I mean, all wars are bankers' wars, and has been killing us in the billions over the centuries. So we need to start moving away from that old paradigm thinking, and let's talk about, you know, the things that have been uncovered, the secret technologies that you've been able to come across, and bring that in. We need to bring that into the consciousness so people are aware that there is this. The problem with the people is they don't believe anything because they're only told certain things to believe. So let's start melting their minds a little bit.
Yeah, I think we can publicize more of the access to information as to what's been happening in the last 60 years and the technology that's been developed as we have been back engineering what we have learned from the visitors from other star systems and how vast it really is, and how we have been bungling that one too by concentrating on military technology rather than civil technology. We've had some USCILs have a lot of information on agriculture and medicine, for example. And these are the things that we should be concentrating on instead of trying to build weaponized people on Earth or in the sky.
Yeah, absolutely, and you're absolutely correct as well. Well, like you say, what they've actually done, you're cracking up a little bit, by the way, Paul, but what they've actually done is exactly what you've said. They've taken all these exotic 0 point energies, converted them into weapons, and riddled space with weapons. If people look at John Leonard Walson, you can see in gigantic craft in space that are all incidentally pointing away from Earth. Because what they're doing, they're actually fortifying their ring of steel around the planet to prevent visitors coming here to upset their control grid. And that's precisely the way it's going on. They're not trying to protect Earth, they're trying to enslave Earth and keep it enslaved. Now they've got this stuff in their position and positioned out there to keep anybody who wants to come and free us away. So it's actually the opposite to what we've actually... You know, even if we do find out, they'll say, oh, we're going to protect you from the bad aliens. No, it's another ruse. It's another enemy to have a fight against. And that, unfortunately, is the truth. John Leonard Walson, look him up. You can see these things for yourself and video of them.
Yeah, I don't know if the name Carol Rosin means anything to you or not, But she's a promoter of the uses of space treaty, which is really groundbreaking, and which I'm supporting along with Edward Mitchell, the Apollo astronaut, and others. And she worked with Wernher von Braun years ago, and towards the end of his life, when he was getting very mellow, he told her about the military-industrial complex, that they had to have an enemy all the time, of course. And he said the first will be the communists, the second will be the terrorists, and then it will be the extraterrestrials. And that seems to be the way it's shaping up.
Absolutely, absolutely. The comet that came in recently, actually, there was lots of speculation on the internet, where it was from, all of a sudden, I mean, comets like that don't happen every morning at the moment. But the point is, when the footage has been analysed, there's actually, number one, I was saying before they actually sent these things in publicly, the next thing is they're going to be throwing comets at us. And I do know of Carol Roslin's work. I've studied it for a long time. But yeah, the first thing is meteorites. Also to say the next thing is meteorites, and then after that, we're going to have a combination of blue beam and an invasion scenario. And that's what they're planning. So again, it's all a big ruse that's been set up. You're absolutely correct. And as in what Carol Roslin pointed forward, this is what they're going to do: A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So, and I mean, read the. Well, I don't want to go back onto the economic situation, but just legalizing cannabis for pharmaceuticals would solve that problem alone. But we've got this technology. It's been hidden from us. We could have free energy, anti-gravity systems, and we could be off this planet. And, one of the biggest things they're hiding is when you get off this planet, you see what technology has actually been left behind by other civilizations and other races. And it completely, it just would liberate the entire human race if we could get hold of this technology. And they know it, which is not what they want. They've spent thousands of years imposing this system and these systems of control on us. So the last thing that they want to do now is let them all go and say, all right, you've caught us out, we give up. It's not going to be that simple, but it is going to take the consciousnesses of the collective masses to force that grip to be loosened off.
There are a lot of interesting things going on, and some of them are terrifying, and others are a little bit hopeful. If we could just concentrate on the latter, we would be all right.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, we make our own future, and that's one of the things that they've also been hiding from us by keeping us in the past. But anyway, let's not go there. It's a bit deep. The point of the matter is, we were always meant to be free as a human race. This is why we're going through all of these pains and stuff like this. But, we are destined for the stars. And, that's where we're going to go. So I can't wait for this golden age to start kicking in. But it is up to us, we the people, to actually make the stand and say, no, we're not putting it up with it anymore. We know what your game is. We understand what's going on. And enough's enough. We want what is ours. We paid for it. We, not necessarily paid for it. I mean, we deserve it. As a race, we've gone through enough hardship, Do
you think we already have the technology to take us to the stars?
Yes. Well, yeah. Ben Rich said the same thing, didn't he, when he retired from Lockheed?
On his deathbed, yes.
Yeah, totally. He wasn't kidding.
Some other people have said that too.
Oh yeah, totally. It's because it's true. I've actually written a book on all of these on lots of these technologies and lots of these things. But again, I've been there and done the homework and released it over a year ago. But interesting stuff, and we've got to keep getting this information out to the public. That's number one priority, and trying to keep it as close as the truth as we can, so it doesn't overcomplicate the situation.
Yeah, not make it too complicated, and not get too involved in disinformation. Because
totally.
that the disinformation machine is still working overtime.
Yes, Totally. I've just been informed that we've got a caller. Would you like to take a couple of questions for a minute from a caller, Paul?
Sure, if I can hear them, which is the only problem.
Yeah, no problem. I'll bring the caller in now. One sec. Caller, area code 417. Questions or comments?
Hey there. Can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear. What's up? Sounds like, is this
Great.
Jim?
Yeah.
How are you?
I'm good. Hey, Paul, thanks for coming on. Really appreciate it. It's good to hear that somebody that used to be in politics is actually thinking and the way that we're thinking.
Yeah, it hasn't done me. It hasn't done me any harm at all.
Well, even with all this technology that's been hidden, I don't know if you're familiar with Jeff Lawton. He's
that name is not familiar to me, no.
Okay, he's well renowned around the world for doing permaculture and how to transform the land scientifically to where nobody would ever want a need for food. There would be plenty of it, and just with what's available energy-wise, just using solar and wind energy, that you can actually survive on a small plot of land and be totally self-sufficient, and just with your surplus go out and get the other needs that you need. And that's just with that alone.
Absolutely.
We start unleashing some of these newer technologies. I mean, that's just going to be, another boon for the people. And as I do believe that the monetary system is, Tony, I agree with you that we do need to be told the truth. But I think that at this point right now, things are getting so bad that I believe that it's time that we have to walk away as best we can with enough people and just say, okay, we're going to create our own monetary system, and this is how we're going to operate. Spain, they're doing it in Spain right now with these time banks. I don't know if you've read about that.
No, but I know that there are local currencies. We have several in our country too.
Yeah, and but we do have to stop the usury system. That has to stop quickly, one way or another. And hopefully, with whatever we decide to replace it with, that it's going to be here's one system. But if you choose that you want to use something else, you're more than free to do that. If you think it's going to work better than what we're going to offer you. But government's coming in and saying, okay, this is going to be the monetary system. Well, we're in a big problem with governments is because of the corporatocracy that's going on. We have no control of what's going on in D.C. Absolutely nothing. We tell them no, we don't want this. I mean, 80% of the population says no, and they do it anyway.
Yeah, but that's the problem. 80% of the population are letting them do it. That's the problem.
So, do you have a website or anything where you put up any of your ideas and stuff?
Yeah, I have a website, and also there's one called victoryfortheworld.net, I think it is. And quite a few of the ideas are there. And we'll be putting up another one within the next 2 weeks related to the sort of new attack that we're going to make in this area. And I don't know what it's going to be called yet, but it's going to be on this specific problem of trying to break the cartel and make the central banks, like the Bank of Canada and the Bank of England, work for the people, their shareholders, instead of just for the few very wealthy bankers that are really running the world.
Sure.
And let me see if I can find.
Well, I definitely would appreciate if you guys would link those websites together. I got this one. It's victoryfortheworld.net. Is that correct?
I think so. Just let me take a look here. Victoryfortheworld.net. And my personal one, which is in transition, but there's still a lot of some information on it, is paulhellyerweb.com. Paul Hellyer, all one word, Paul Hellyer Web, all one word, .com.
Gotcha.
And victoryfortheworld.net.
Thank you. Thank you. Before I get off here, Kate, what was that site where you saw the Keshi video?
It's on Before It's News. I'll get it posted up on.
Oh, it's on Before It's News? Okay.
I believe so. I'll go and look for it now while you guys are chatting, and make sure I find it, and I can direct you to it.
Okay. Yeah. There's just a lot of things that we've got a million problems, but we're just going to have to pick out, the top 10 or so and say, okay, here's step number one. This is what we got to do.
Yeah, we've also.
I think if we had a banking system that worked for the people, then you would be able to attack half or three-quarters of the problems one at a time and resolve them satisfactorily. But I don't know about your situation, although I suspect it's very similar to ours. We're shutting down pools in the high schools for lack of money. We're cutting back lunch programs for students for lack of money. We're slowing down the rate of providing decent public transportation in Toronto for lack of money. We're not building new decent houses for our First Nations population for lack of money. We're not educating the children of the First Nations properly for lack of money. So I could give you a list of, probably 50 or 100 or 1,000 things if I spend enough time at it, where the number one problem is lack of money. And the basic, of course, is that today there's no way to get money except to borrow it. And all money is created by private banks as debt. And it's not only debt, it's debt which has to be repaid with interest. And you can't create money with which to pay the interest. So we just keep going on borrowing in order to pay the interest on what we already owe and going deeper and deeper into debt. And that's
that Ponzi scheme is already totally out of control, and I don't think that they know what to do because I don't think there's anything to do about it. I think it's broken completely. Down here in this. Go ahead.
I don't think we should let the system implode if we can stop it, because it hurts too many people. There's too many people hurting already. And if the system crashes completely, there are more people get hurt because they'll lose their houses and they'll lose their jobs and they'll lose their farms and they'll lose their businesses and so on. And there's a way of avoiding that, and I'm convinced that there is. We should try and do it. So
are you versed at all? Because I'm not. I know that Iceland just basically told the banks to go where, but I don't know what they've done to replace it. Or are you familiar with what they actually did?
I'm not totally familiar with the present situation, but I know that what they did was very courageous and made very sensible, and that was not to pay off foreign debt, which should never have been incurred in the first place.
Exactly.
And the debt.
Well, they put a lot of bankers in jail.
Well, that's a good start.
Well, they're executing 4 in Iran, bankster fraudsters.
Is that right?
That's an even better start.
Well, they can't be all wrong there.
No, they don't. That's the thing. In Islam, you cannot have usury. That's exactly why the Rothschild banks. Again, look at the countries that they're after. It's all ones that don't have Rothschilds. The latest victim was Gaddafi's Libya.
Yep.
So, you can follow the money. It's very easy once you see it. It's. Iran is. I'm not for capital punishment or any sort of harm like that at all. But I got to tell you, when someone goes out of the way to harm, I live under the golden rule. So if you harm others, then you want to be harmed. That's how I see it, right? Yin yang.
Now, that's the eye for an eye and tooth for a tooth, but the golden rule is even better. But have you chaps all seen the movie Thrive?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
And that's the message: follow the money.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then then you see how it affects the pharmaceuticals and the medical industry and the oil industry and everything.
Absolutely. Yeah, but
and
again, they're all constructs.
All goes up the funnel and out the top in one place.
Yeah, well, that's the point. They're all there for a reason. Again, you've got to go even further than Thrive did, because as I say, the fact of the matter is, why are these problems here today? Well, because they've been constructed to be here. Well, okay, why have they been constructed? To constrict the populace and to constrict the people into conformity with what is required, as in control. So, all of it's control. And that's principally where you have to come back to at the end of the day. Then we might need some forms of credit, of course, in the interim, but it's in the case, what we need to do is start rolling it back, not designing a new one. Because, even designing a new one's not going to work, because by the time we've gone 6 months down the line, a year, 2 years, 10 years, whatever, down the line, there'll be more legislation, there'll be more restrictions, there'll be more ID cards, there'll be more trouble, there'll be more asteroids, you know what I mean? All of these sorts of things.
I think there was an article in one of your papers recently about a study that was done by a couple of economists, or who was it? The Bank for International Settlements, was it? No, it was for one of the
tabloids.
Which one was it done for? I can't remember. But anyway, it was really based on the first Chicago school of the 1930s.
Okay.
And in effect, a 100% cash reserve system. And after I saw that, I think it was in one of your dailies over there. I got the whole 62 pages and read them. And the only problem with it was so complicated and would involve so much bureaucracy that it seemed to me that it would solve a lot of the problems as far as debt is concerned, but it would create a lot of new problems.
Exactly.
And what I've been hoping for is that we could get a transition that would solve the old problems without creating a bunch of new ones.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, carry on, Paul.
I forgot which paper it was in, but I remember somebody sent me a connection to a link, and I read it with great interest. Because that was where Milton Friedman originally got his ideas for a 100% cash system. And he supported that most of his life, but finally abandoned it because he thought it was politically impossible, which I believe it is. But in addition to that, I don't think it's desirable, because I think that's too much power in the hands of government.
Well, yeah, again, you need to look at what government is, to govern the mentality of the people. Govern the mental, govern the mind. And again, it needs, if we could go out and elect people, that we wanted in, that we trusted, we knew personally, etc., then that would be great. We'd have a wonderful start. But unfortunately, everybody's conscripted from Yale and Eton and Skull and Bones and, all these sorts of secret societies, again, which is another problem.
Well, you're just raising a problem we haven't touched on and isn't talked about very much, and that is really the moral problem of how we all live.
Yeah.
Because the problem at the top is this lust for greed and power.
Yep.
We've had in our papers in the last few days several stories about our senators who have been claiming money for home allowance because they allegedly were out of the area where they were representing. And when in fact they really have been in Ottawa for years and don't have a home where they're supposed to live, and one case maybe a cottage, a summer cottage or something like that. And I think, apart from the fact we're all getting so immune to corruption, that it sort of numbs us, and we don't react very much to it. But we can't operate a world where you can't trust anybody, and where you have your hand out, take a little bit off the top when you haven't earned it. And so somehow we're going to have to try and observe what you were talking about earlier, and that is to treat other people the way we would wish to be treated, and that would solve a lot of problems. Believe me, if we could really make it work, if we really did it consistently.
Absolutely. This is what I was talking about hidden agendas. You know, this is the problem. I talk about that. I don't want to mention the name of my book again, but it's called Light at the End of the Tunnel, A Survival Plan for the Human Species, and you can get it from Amazon. They have a place that prints it in the UK, and it's available. It's got a lot of ideas in it that I think you would find of interesting, including a political agenda which would cut back on military expenditures and cut back on the amount of money they may, and get the CIA out of the war-making business, and a lot of interesting things that we should be pursuing, in addition to the few that we've just been talking about. Absolutely. Sounds like some good stuff. Yeah, lots of different points, lots of good points there raised as well, Paul. But, yeah, again, you know, it all starts with, you know, trying to get the true information out there about all these things. So, you know, that's what we endeavour to do, and, you know, that's, like I say, you can't fix something if you don't know what's wrong with it, so that's the main point, isn't it?
Are you still there?
Yeah. Tony, you're breaking up a little bit, Tony. Yeah, again, just to reiterate what Tony was saying, it is about making the change, and it starts with the individual, you know, deciding that. We have got a lot of changes coming at us, and I think the only thing that's stopping that is the fear of the change, because people have gotten so used to a lazy boy existence, living in the mindset of a welfare state, and that's again very divisive. That creates dependency of people on something outside of themselves, and it's no wonder we're in a responsible society, because we're bred and trained that way. That's how the system actually works. Keep them smart enough to run the machines and dumb enough to know what's really going on, and unfortunately there's some breakouts like us that see right through their nonsense and say enough. We've had enough, enough slavery of the human race, and we have the technologies that are there. Oh, I did want to say this, and then I'll let you on. Before it's news, Jim, I have the link. I'll tell you what the title of it is if everyone's listening. The title is "Iran Has Technology Which Renders Military-Industrial Complex Obsolete." And you'll get that on beforeitsnews.com. It's actually, when you open up beforeitsnews.com, there's a little video window that brings up videos, and they're always the prime ones. You'll see a Peter Santilli show, and that has the link to the actual page as well, or you can scroll down and find it on the page, which is a pain because there's a lot of stories there. But anyway, so it's Iran Has Technology Which Renders Military-Industrial Complex Obsolete. Everyone needs to watch that, and you'll understand why World War III will never happen.
That's awesome. Thank you.
That's a good thought.
Absolutely.
Well, I think so. Only when you stop and think about it, all of a sudden you've got these military powers that have been walking around policing the planet to their own profit for whatever reason, be it hidden technologies, oil, or just a good old-fashioned hunt, like the Royals like to do. Once we get into that right headspace and start understanding that the technology is there, Israel and the United States as military power, any military power, has just been effectively neutered. And there's a peace treaty that Kesha has put together, and the countries, I forget how many countries he said there were involved, It could have been 15 or 50. I couldn't understand it, but even at 15, it's a USB countries, USB stick, and these countries were given the key to open it so they could actually have these technologies. And part of the deal is the peace treaty. And you know, it's a beautiful 30 minutes. I think it's 20 or 30 minutes of a video interview of him at a show or a speech in England. And Tony actually knows one of the guys that I think was interviewed. Tony, at the end.
Yeah, he might have been interviewed. I haven't seen information of him being interviewed, but I know him personally, and he was there on the deck, if you like.
Yeah, so well worth the watch. And what we have to change here is system wants to sell us on the fear of war. That's another. Of course, that's the standard program. Sell the fear. That way we can ramp people up and be patriotic and, oh my God, we're going to be this, that, and the other and kick their asses. And there's a bunch of bankers sitting back laughing at us meat sticks killing each other for their profits. As soon as you change that paradigm into saying, and I know there won't be, not on my watch, there will be no World War III, and they can sell it as much as they want. They have been neutered, technologically destroyed in a peaceful way.
Yeah. And it makes a nonsense of some of the things we're doing. Our biggest military expenditure in Canada in the next few years, and it's a big one, is to buy a new fighter plane. I think, if I recall correctly, it's the F-35. And it was obsolete before Lockheed got it off the drawing board.
Yeah, and they can't even fly the damn thing. I've done a lot of research on that plane. I mean, they got pilots that are complaining of headaches and almost passing out because of the problems with the airflow system inside the aircraft itself. It is a flying technological nightmare, and a lot of pilots were refusing to fly them. But again, it's not about the fighters. It's about transfer of money in hands, right? Let's see how much more we can fleece for the people and sell them this piece of junk. You know?
Yeah, but you'd think Lockheed, which has the advanced technology, would have some qualms about selling a lot of those things to people just to take in more money.
No, because the whole thing, they've got to keep up the pretense of a war. They need to keep manufacturing wars. I mean, it's all right saying that, you know, oh, it's this, you know. Look, I mean, even though Iran has actually gone with Mirhan Kesh's technology and brought two of those things down, I'm still going to have to say Area 51, number one, America's got Area 51. They've had craft coming out of there for decades and decades and decades. Okay, so just because Kesh has come out with some new kit over in Iran doesn't mean to say, you know, that's the end of it, it's all over. No, it's not. The fact of the matter is UFOs and craft have been coming down all over the world, in China, in the seas, in America, in, you know, Russia, in China, you know, just everywhere. So the countries, the people at the top of the pile here, not only have this tech, but have had it for a very, very, very long time. They just needed to keep everybody fooled, and like Smedley Butler told us, war is a racket. It is a racket, and it controls the people fighting each other and not actually looking at what's really responsible behind the scenes. So, you know, we still need to look at globalization and how the world is run and who is running it from behind the scenes. It's paramount that we do that, you know. We need to turn at the truth. So, I mean, if this technology they've had for, let's say, you know, decades, let's say, you know, Hitler was making Hannibal in, what was it, 1936, I think is the earliest I found. Otis T. Carr and Ralph Ring were building functioning UFOs in the 1950s. You know, there's lots of different situations I've looked at here. There's fossilized UFOs that have been found in China. There's one at the bottom of the Baltic Sea that's shaped like the Millennium Falcon. I can give you example after example after example after example. The point is, they've got them up there, they're in orbit, we've got video, we've got TV footage, we've got people going public, we've got Area 51, White Sands, New Mexico, all this stuff coming out. There's pictures, I myself have seen on four separate occasions. You know, this is, they've got this stuff and they've had it for a very long time. All these pretense of war and all this famine, death, disease, destruction, and all the rest of it is all manufactured to keep everybody in poverty. So, you know, we've got to be honest about this and start with the truth. And that's my sticking point. It comes back to it again and again and again. you know?
Yeah, I think the World War III is the people versus the international banking cartel.
Yeah, it's our freedom. We need our freedom.
And we've already won because the illusion is falling down by the minute.
I hope you're right, because it's just, as I said, a great big Ponzi scheme where they're not actually lending money, they're just lending credit. And it's just like a real Ponzi that it only works as long as you can bring in money faster than it's going out. And they have reached the end of the tether, and the whole thing is starting to crumble.
Indeed, that piece of paper is only worth what you believe it's worth. That's the point. It's not that that paper is worth anything more than a piece of rice paper. The fact is, if you believe it's got a 10, a 50, a 20, a 100 stamped on it, and you believe it's worth that, and everybody else agrees with you, then it's got some value. And again, it's down to the belief system. So we need to look at this whole money thing on a big time, you know?
Yeah, that's true. That's true, because nearly all money is fiat money of one kind or another. The Roman Empire was on fiat money. They were just tin coins. They had no intrinsic value at all. And they did very well until Caesar came along and started doing away with that and making gold coins. And then he got his comeuppance, I guess, from the Senate, who thought it was all wrong.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was going to say, it's amazing how this world works. A little bit of trivia for those. I'm a coin collector, have been my whole life. Well, until the cops stole my collection, but that's another story for another show. Literally, by the way, Paul. Do you know why they put the ridges around the outside of a coin?
Sure, so they could take some off and cheat people.
Well, they put the ridges on there to stop the bankers in the banks from clipping the coins. That way, if there was some of the ridges missing, you knew the coin had been clipped. So that was an anti-counterfeiting dilution. And what happened with Rome, the more the coins became diluted with alloys and still passed off as the same value, again, what we're dealing with, the demise of an empire, is its inability to remain honest. The more laws, the more corruption. And the laws are only written to protect those that are writing them and that are operating in the fraud courts. You know, I've exposed more corruption and fraud in the banks and courts than I'd care to count, Paul. And I've lived this. This is not a theory. I've went through this. And I've seen some things that would spin your head and turn your stomach with what's really going on out there. But that's not what we want to get at. We got like about 18 minutes left here. I really want to get into some of the things that you uncovered. I've seen a couple of your things that you uncovered with regards to the extraterrestrial technologies. And, what did you actually come across in terms of your portfolio being in the defense?
Well, not very much when I was in defense, because I was too busy unifying the armed forces to fight more than one war at a time. So I just saw sightings reports and didn't follow them up, asked certainly the kinds of questions that I would ask now. But for the last 8 years, I have been delving pretty deeply into this subject, and have come across quite a lot of amazing information. And for example, something that interested me yesterday when I was reading a book about this sort of stuff was what happened to the crash in 1965 in New Mexico, 2 years before Roswell, before the two crashes at Roswell. And where did the ship go, and why does nobody talk about it? And was this part of the reason that it was known in certain circles that General Remy, whatever his name was, changed the tune and said that it was a balloon that had been shot down and not a crashed flying saucer, as had been originally reported by the Air Force. And I don't know what happened to it, but I talked to one of the people who saw it, and it was very real as far as he was concerned. And if I remember correctly, there were survivors. But I have read very little about this. I'm thinking maybe I'll find out more about it when I get to Washington in the beginning of May. And then, of course, the exchange. One of the most incredible things that happened, I was reading about the training that the U.S. had to go through before they took off, and it was so rigorous. I just thought to myself, thank goodness I never got myself in a position where I had to go through something like that. But it is a whole fantastic world, or cosmos, which we only partly understand. And for me, it's like a scroll that's opening in both directions. Usually a scroll just opens in one direction, but these are scrolls opening in both directions to an expanding reality that was beyond my wildest imagination, which I just couldn't possibly have imagined. One of the interesting things that I came across too, largely thanks to Paul Hellyer, who was a good friend and mentor of mine, the tall whites. In my book, I have a primer on UFOs. The title of the chapter is "We're Not Alone in the Cosmos." But I named 6 different species, and I hadn't heard of the tall whites at the time that I wrote it. And to find out that they were not only real, but they were living on the desert, on the United States Air Force property, and working with the United States Air Force and exchanging technology back in the 1960s, and their modus operandi and all of this sort of thing, just absolutely fascinates, because very, very little is written about them and where they're from and what they're like, except they're very tall, look quite a bit like us, to the extent where some of the women would disguise themselves as nuns and go into Las Vegas shopping, and were never detected as being anything other than just ordinary nuns having a shopping spree. So I could go on for hours, but won't, on all of the things that I have learned and am learning, and how fascinating they are, and how much more I think there is to know about not only Area 51, but Area 28 and 38 and other areas that do various things, and how much money is being spent on them, and how much the Congress knows about what they're spending their money on, and who's setting the priorities and letting the cabal, as I call them, get away with spending so much money at a time when the country is starving for money for schools and firefighters and policemen and all other sort of things at the present time. So it's just a very interesting and fascinating area that I pursue in my spare time, and we'll get back on in about 3 or 4 weeks after I get through with my present project.
Yeah, there's so much to learn. Like you said, there's so many different species and so many things going on out there. It's incredible. I mean, we had Ben Stillings. Have you ever heard of him, Paul?
Pardon me?
Ben Stillings.
I can't hear you, I'm sorry.
I said, have you ever heard of Ben Stillings?
Have I ever had a...
Ever heard?
No,
of...
he might know Brett Stillings, though.
Oh, Brett, sorry. Yeah, Brett Stillings. He was involved in the teleportation program to Mars and various other situations.
Yeah,
have you ever heard?
I've read about some of them, but don't know them personally.
Yeah. Okay. No, it was an interesting conversation that we had to do with, like say, teleportation to Mars and time travel and this sort of stuff. Some incredible technologies that they've been using for a long, long time and basically hiding from us. Interesting information. There's, like say, information on the Greys as well. The report from Iron Mountain, the SHAPE report from Europe as well, or the Brookings report. Any of those?
Yeah, I'm having difficulty. I'm sorry.
Right. Okay. I'm not sure if I'm coming through clear or not. Then.
Well, you're coming through, but make it as clear as you possibly can, please.
Yeah. Okay. I was just wondering if you'd heard of other people, but it doesn't matter. So, any other topic, any other things you've come across that the listeners might like to know about?
Anything that I've come across that which
the listeners might like to know about?
Well, I think probably your listeners know a lot from what you've been telling them.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure that I would have anything very much new to add. I have talked to abductees
mm-hmm.
and learned a lot from them, and it's I've been really impressed by the messages that they have been bringing back from the extraterrestrials about their concerns, because it seems that they are the concerns of many of us here on Earth. And Jim Sparks, for example, has made it very clear that they're concerned about our stewardship of the planet and the fact that we're not looking after it, that
Absolutely.
We're following our own nest, and that we may have a catastrophe on our hands if we don't act fairly quickly. And I take this seriously. I think that things are moving in a dangerous direction, and if we don't start listening to the messages that are coming through, that we will live or to regret it, or not live as a result of not paying attention. So I have been, and I go back, of course, to the opinions expressed by Wilbert Smith way back in the 1950s, when he was talking about the kind of world that we could have after he had been talking to the extraterrestrials, and the things that they said that were of promise to us as a species. And then look back and almost cry when I see how little effort we have made to take advantage of all that they have offered, and how we have blown so much time and opportunity by just concentrating on the military applications instead of using it to create the kind of world that we all dream of. And the kind of world that I dream of, I call it the sort of kingdom of God on earth. Other people can call it whatever they like, but it's where every child would have enough food to eat, clean water to drink, his or her back, a roof over his or her head, and a little basic education so that they could find out whether or not they had potential to make a contribution to their fellow humankind, and basic health care. And we haven't been taking advantage of the power and technology that we have to do these things. We've just been sitting and letting people die and letting them starve, and and not having the political will to set priorities that make sense for our species and then carrying them out. And instead going along with the people who want us to be afraid of our shadows and starting one war after another, people on both sides unnecessarily for no better reason than the lust for domain, for power and oil combined. So these are the messages that come through loud and clear, starting way back when Robert Smith got his first contact with the extraterrestrials, right through until recently. That we should listen and learn, not just the things that are harmful to ourselves and others, but the things that could be wonderful if we would adopt the best rather than the worst. So,
yep.
I've got a question.
It's been an interesting journey, and it's not over yet.
No, again, we just need to realize that, these things are this way because they've been constructed this way, and this is the reason there's poverty and disease and all that sort of thing, because it's a construct. And they've been made, all these things exist because we allow them to exist. And none of them need to. We have the solutions.
Tony, Jim was going to jump in with a question there. We got like 5 minutes left, so we'll take.
I just had Paul. How can your groups and the people that you're involved with and us, how can we network and get together? Because I think that's what the problem is that we're all separated, we're all isolated into separate groups, and we need to pull together. Any ideas?
I think if you want to know what we're doing immediately, you can probably find out by going to my website in a couple of weeks, and we'll have something up there that would be a link to the new website that will be up. And then you can to look at our plan and see whether or not it's a template that you could use in the UK.
Excellent.
Okay. Hey, appreciate your time, sir.
Not at all. It's a real pleasure, and I'm sorry that I've had some difficulty with the transmissions here, but it's been a little hard for me to hear. This makes it a little difficult to respond as coherently as I would hope if I could hear a little more clearly, but maybe next time we can get these machines to work more satisfactorily.
Yeah, we're having the same problem this end. It's very difficult to make out what your words are because it's very choppy, to say the least.
I apologize, but I'm doing the best I can under the circumstances.
No.
That's absolutely. Hey, what, guys? It's clear here. So.
Yeah, it's not you, Paul. It's okay. No,
absolutely. Well, thank you. I can't thank you enough for coming on, and we'll definitely get you back when your book is ready, and we'll start looking at that and getting the word out even more. I love the question. That was beautiful. How do we get together? We are in isolated pockets, but though we are gathering, there is no question. All of the right people that are not following a leader, unless of course you opt in. Ha ha ha. But anyway. This is where we are all starting to stand together as individual, independent, collective leaders. One leader, easy to pick off, 7 billion, a little tough. But Paul, you said it right. We need to get the people together. We need to stand. And, it's the old saying, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. And I think this whole paradigm we've been existing in for so long has a lot of people that have fallen for it and have fallen as a result. So your efforts are greatly appreciated, and it's been an honor.
You're absolutely right. And if it wasn't for the social media, we wouldn't have a chance. But with it, I think we do.
Agreed, and this is why we have these shows, because we need to get the voices of truth out there. We need to start asking the hard questions, and we need to start looking at ourselves really hard in the mirror, here, just a little thought that I'd like to share at the end of this here. You've got all these elites that have managed to put all the different seeds of everything of this planet into cold storage, so that whenever the sheeple of this planet that have been duped into destroying it have destroyed it, these ones that have actually duped us into doing that, and we went along with it, will turn around in a karmic sense and say, well, look,
we managed to save the fauna of the planet. So we did the good thing, and you got to be careful, because if you're buying into the the GMO and the geoengineering and all the rest of it, if you're not going against it, then you're for it. So I like to deal in the cosmic sense. So, but I want to thank Paul, Lisa, and the Critical Mass Radio team for giving us this platform every night that we can bring wonderful guys like Paul Hellyer on. And of course, Tony, and thanks so much for calling in, Jim. Always a pleasure. Always bringing great questions and insights to the shows. From there, finish it off, guys. We got about a minute left.
Yeah, all good. I'm not sure if you can hear me. I'm presuming everything's clear. Yeah, thanks ever so much for coming on the show tonight with us, Paul. It's been wonderful to have you. Hopefully we can arrange another time shortly when you could come on, if you would be so kind. And just wondered if there was any information that you wanted to release, any more websites other than what you have already. And
no, I think that's it. Now it's been a pleasure to be with you, and I hope the opportunity will arise again.
Okay, that's wonderful. And thanks from me, and thanks everybody, and hopefully we'll get this going again shortly. Okay, good night, guys.
Good night.
Thanks a lot, guys. You've been listening to Cosmic Blueprints here on Critical Mass Radio with Paul Hellyer, and of course host Tony Z, and other host me, Kate of Gaia. Don't forget, tune in tomorrow night. Guaranteed we're going to have some more fun. Much love to all, and you are the change you need to see. So be it. Much love. Take care. Happy evening.
Love y'all.